let's dive right into a playwriting 101 masterclass, playwriting for dummies. Let's assume I want to write my first play, but I have no idea what to do. I don't know where to start. Complete rookie, never written a play before. I'm in the presence of an accomplished playwright, a professor as well. So for the next hour, I just want to pick your brains on ABCs of playwriting. How does that sound?
Great. Okay. Let's go for it.
Let's do it. So first thing, I've sat down and I'm trying to write my play. And the first obstacle that's in front of me is trying to identify the central theme or the core of my work, or what will be the driving factors. You've said in your book, Theatre Across Borders, in time I realized that at the heart of every great play lies a question. These questions are sometimes realized effectively and sometimes not so much. However, without these questions, a play loses its significance in its own time, let alone in history. And then you've said there are 3 central questions that often drive your work. So I want to explore each one separately. You go on to say in the book, the first question that has often driven me is, what is the invisible? So let's pause here. What is this question? What does it mean? And then what is the invisible?
Shall we go back a little bit to your 101 scenario?
Okay.
Before we come to this question. Because this is not a 101 question, I think what is the invisible is a more detailed one, I think basically what I'm trying to say, what I want to say is that writing your first play is not a difficult thing. Writing your second play is a difficult thing, Because the first play can come out of various things that one has lived through. I think any creative person fundamentally is trying to express something. So if you write your first play and you say, okay, I see a stage, for example, and I close my eyes and I see someone doing something, right? You probably see, I don't know, you and your friends trying to, build a sandcastle.
Everyone has one play within them that they write in their entire life.
Yeah, that you can write.
Right.
So you start saying, there's a boy who's 15 years old and he sits with it and he builds a sandcastle.
What's the story I want to tell the most?
Yeah. And then you say, okay, and then some people arrive and they break that sandcastle.
You know my first play already.
Done.
This is it.
So they
How did you know?
Now there's an argument. There's some kind of conflict, And once that happens, someone's mother calls them home and there is probably a festival at home. And now while the festival is going on, that child realizes that outside my home is a different world where there are some boys who can break my sand dune, which is different from the thing at home where my sand dune will last. Like, this is the most fundamental conflict that a human being faces from the time they're 9 months old, right? The day you realize that my mother and I are 2 different beings, drama begins for human beings, because suddenly, oh my God, this person is not me. And I have to somehow love them and also separate from them at the same time. That's it. That's all of, if you take the history of, I think, literature and drama, it will come down to that one simple conflict that we have from the time we are 9 months old, right? The challenge is the second play always. Because the first play you will write, if you're really interested in producing and getting there, you will read it to your friends and family, and some people will give you feedback, you'll change it. Then you will work on, in a space, you'll rehearse it, you'll add some music and lights, and you will do some kind of production of it. And which might be very good, because, one has lived for a certain number of years before making that first work. I think after that is when the challenge starts, and God forbid if the first one was successful. Then the second one becomes even more difficult, because you can get trapped in the success of the first. Getting trapped in success is infinitely more dangerous than getting trapped in failure. So now then, when you're in the second one, there are some things to be asked. And I think a fundamental question is that, what do you want to do as an artist? Right? That's the sort of macro question which includes all these other questions that I might have written earlier. Because suddenly you are now an artist of some kind, having produced one work of art. Even if you haven't produced it, if you've just written it and read it at home, by creating art, you are some type of artist. Now comes the real challenge, because you have to develop the craft to say something that you haven't said before. Till your first play, you haven't said anything. So you can say whatever you want. You don't really have a conscious craft, but you have craft because of what you have seen, stories you've heard at home. Everybody has a sense of drama, right? If you ask somebody, how was your day? What did you do today? They will tell you that story in some order. Somebody will say, I woke up, I brushed my teeth, etc., etc., etc. Somebody will start with, I had an accident. And then they will construct it. These are all actually different structures of drama that we follow. So this is not very difficult. The difficult thing is then to say that, okay, now how to do it consciously, which is, I think, where this question comes up of what is the invisible, which is like a sub-question of what I want to do as an artist. What I mean by this is just very simply that when I was growing up, all my training in school, college was based mostly in mathematics and physics, and I studied abstract algebra in college. That was my most preferred subject. And I think I was interested because I always had this feeling that there's something in school that they're not telling me. There seems to be more to this, but somehow they're not telling me this thing. Like, how did we move suddenly one day from numbers to calculus?
Right.
And what happened in between? I mean, of course, I get it that there are some formulas, and if you know those 20 things, but what is it really? Similarly, I think physics is one such subject where I think feelings are like that. We are aware of how we are feeling, but when feelings repeat, you feel sorry if your ice cream falls, and you feel sorry when someone dies. Are they the same kind of sorry? Is the intensity any different for a 7-year-old? Sometimes, when there's a death in the family, the 7-year-old is still playing. They haven't even registered. But the ice cream falls, the 7-year-old is crying. So there is something behind this which is going on. And I think one of the things for me that art is very good at is to explore this thing that we are not saying, this thing that we are not able to articulate, to explore subjectivity, I think. Mainly, I think when I'm saying what is the invisible is to explore what is the subjective in human life, which is not visible to us, because it's not one thing, it's many things influence why we feel sorrow, why we get over something, why we feel happy about something which has nothing to do with us. Sometimes in life, we are so happy when something good happens to someone else who we don't even know. Sometimes we are so happy when something terrible happens to someone else who we don't even know, right? Why is this? What is this about? So I think this is the kind of thing which the invisible leads us to. Then, society is full of invisible forces. Economics is full of invisible forces, and life itself. I think, there is a huge similarity between arts and religion, which is both things ask the same question. They try to provide an answer of some kind to where did I come from, how should I live here, and where will I go? All religions do this. All art tries to address it. Of course, we arrive at very different answers and our processes are very different. But I think these are the kind of eternal questions. And one such eternal question is, what is the invisible around me as a human being that is driving my world? So that influences, I think, my work.